Let me guess. You've asked yourself once before, what the hell is there to even watch on Amazon Prime? Boy, am I here to tell you. While most people are perfectly satisfied with their subscription service just for the 2-day shipping, I'm here to tell you you're sitting on a gold mine of entertainment. While Amazon Prime excels with its endless library of B-level trash, I'm going to highlight in this video some of the best television shows that are currently streaming on the service. And while I can't cover every single thing on there because Prime actually has more titles than any other streaming service, here are enough recommendations that I can squeeze into a video. I want to sprinkle the Amazon originals throughout, so I'm going to start with one of my favorite shows from last year that I still think is criminally underrated, and that is Homecoming. I know there's a second season coming, but right now we only have the first one to work with, and that is plenty for me. Sam Esmail directs these 10 half-hour drama episodes starring Julia Roberts as a woman named Heidi, who spent some time working at a mysterious company called Homecoming, yet she can't seem to remember at all what happened there. We hop from the past where she's working with soldiers returning home from active duty, and then jump to the present where there's a man following her around prodding her with questions about Homecoming. We don't know what happened in the middle, but something went wrong. Now, with all mysteries, it's all about the journey and not the destination, and I will say that things are not as sinister as they seem initially, which might be disappointing, but I think this show is incredibly well done. It is so well acted, so well written, and impeccably directed. You just can't help but get sucked in. Spend an afternoon at Homecoming. I assure you it'll be unforgettable. Next up is a show that is quite sinister, and that is Hannibal, the television take on the iconic character. Mads Mikkelsen plays the titular serial killer slash cannibal Hannibal Lecter in this series where he both assists and evades FBI agents played by Hugh Dancy and Lawrence Fishburne. Do you even need to hear anything else? I had been told to watch this show from outlet after outlet, and finally, after giving in, I went, okay, that's pretty damn good. I'm not the biggest police procedural fan, but if you are, Hannibal is a very dark yet entertaining and incredibly fascinating take. I'll admit I've only seen the first season, but it's still pretty good, and I'm definitely looking forward to catching the other two, which are currently streaming on Prime. Go watch them. On kind of the lighter side, we have Showtime's early 2000s quirky dark comedy Dead Like Me. Now, I watched this as a teenager, so this might be a teenager recommendation, but if it's your kind of thing, then I would definitely recommend giving this one a watch. There are only 2 episodes and then a wrap-up TV movie that are all currently on Amazon Prime, and this is a fun one. This show focuses on a young woman named George, who happens to die in a very tragic and absolutely hilarious manner that you have to see to believe. And as she finds herself in limbo, she is tasked with being a Grim Reaper, and she works with her other Grim Reaper colleagues to escort souls from the time of their death to the afterlife. You know, it's kind of one of those shows where they have to earn their way to the goal, and that's what Dead Like Me is. If you like the mix of dark and quirky, then you can't go wrong with Dead Like Me. Check it out. Back to just plain dark, we have the Starz original limited series Flesh and Bone. 8-hour episodes that focus on a prestigious New York City ballet academy and the cutthroat environment in which the players live. We follow a real-life ballet dancer who goes from small-town hopelessness to big-city dreaming. The dancer is played by Sarah Hay, who was absolutely robbed at the 2016 Golden Globes, but I'm not even gonna go there. However, from incest to sex trafficking, Flesh and Bone is not afraid to go there. If you like your dramas gritty and dark, Flesh and Bone is for you. Trust me, it's as raw as the title suggests. Next up is The Kettering Incident, a limited series starring Elizabeth Debicki as a police officer who heads to the homeland in Tasmania, where she has to confront her past, where a friend went missing, and now in the present, there's another missing person that's mirroring that case, and now she's got to figure it out in order to maintain her sanity. I feel like I've seen a few shows like this. This certainly reminded me of Top of the Lake when I first heard of it, but I really enjoyed watching it. This is a very simple and straightforward show that has one whopper of an ending that will make or break it for you. If you like your mysterious investigations with a tinge of sci-fi, you certainly can't go wrong with the Kettering incident. I highly recommend it. Back to Amazon Originals, if you haven't seen Fleabag, this is the #1 show that you need to check out. I don't care who you are. Fleabag started as Phoebe Waller-Bridge's one-woman show that was then turned into the first season that you can find on Amazon Prime. But now we have a second season that is above and beyond all TV comedies that I have seen this year and in the last several years. The show follows a young woman living in London, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and her life is a mess. She is just an absolute disaster. Fleabag has great writing, incredible acting, and it's directed in a way that really makes it rise above what you normally see from a half-hour comedy series. I really can't recommend it enough. There are only 12 episodes. You can fly through this one real easily. Check out Fleabag. How about some mid-2000s reality TV trash for you? I'm not the biggest reality TV show fan, so this is clearly me being a product of my time, but I couldn't help become excited when I saw that Amazon Prime had all 3 seasons of Rock of Love streaming. Obviously, Season 3 Rock of Love Bus is the best, but all 3 seasons of this ridiculous dating show are worth a watch. You know how these go. We get like 20 chicks in a house, and then Bret Michaels from Poison dates them all at once, and they all try to out-trash each other as they get eliminated by each week. Oh, these are so fun. If you love any of the VH1 reality TV shows, there are a few on there. They also have Charm School and I Love Money, and they're also, at least I know I Love Money was unedited, so you get all the language and nudity. We're in a real good place with streaming these days. If this type of garbage is your jam, then you definitely have to watch Rock of Love. And you definitely have to watch Rock of Love Bus, because it's just the trashiest of the trash. You just can't out-trash it. Have a taste for true crime? There's no better place to start than the original run of Unsolved Mysteries. In this show, host Robert Stack walks the audience through several true stories that are stranger than fiction. From missing persons cases to UFO sightings, this show is constructed through reenactments of the events as well as interviews with the people who actually went through them, which makes it a very disturbing watch most of the time. Unsolved Mysteries is the precursor for all of the informational true crime shows that you've ever seen. This is the original, and it's the best. Do not be deterred by the fact that this show started in the 80s and mostly ran through the 90s, at least the good episodes that I'm talking about, because the stories in these episodes are absolutely wild. I mean, there's some bonkers stuff. And the best thing is, all of those episodes right now have a lot of wrap-ups. So all of the updates on certain killers that were found or caught because of the show, so many people, this is great, would like see an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, call the FBI and be like, oh my god, that dude that is wanted for murder, he's my neighbor. This show actually helps solve unsolved mysteries! And there are also great stories of loved ones reconnecting or people finding each other. So there's a lot of uplifting stuff thrown in between the creepy stuff. But I'll say the cases that went completely unsolved still to this day make it even creepier, because you see the stories that were updated and were handled, but there are some things that we'll just never know the answer to. Unsolved Mysteries was nominated for 6 Primetime Emmy Awards and has a whopping 12 seasons for you to binge through. I shouldn't have to sell you on Unsolved Mysteries. You gotta watch it, it's a gem. If you want some genuine thrills, I suggest a trip to Harper's Island. This mystery thriller miniseries plays out like an Agatha Christie novel as characters gather on a small secluded island for a wedding celebration that soon turns deadly as characters are picked off one by one. The plot is simple, the characters are basic, and you can guess the killer through process of elimination. But as a slasher fan myself, it's really fun to watch this tried and true formula play out with time, where we get to meet the characters and get to know them a little bit before they're dispatched in gruesome ways. Harper's Island doesn't break new ground, but it does its thing just right, and that's plenty of fun. That's enough for me. Let's lighten things up with another Amazon original. One Mississippi is a half-hour comedy series starring comedian Tig Notaro that's very much based on her actual life. Tig plays a lesbian cancer survivor radio DJ based in LA that returns to her small hometown in Mississippi for her mother's funeral. But she ends up staying and reconnecting with all of the people around her, and although she's kind of a fish out of water in her own hometown, we get a great look at the way that people can interact and form relationships. And although it takes on a lot of dark subject matter in a very quirky way, this show overall feels very slice of life and can kind of make you feel okay in the world at the end of the day. One Mississippi has only 12 episodes across 2 seasons, so it's an easy binge. Now I'm going to fire off several HBO titles because Amazon Prime happens to also work as an HBO starter pack. They have a bunch of old school HBO shows that I think are fantastic. Starting with In Treatment, a show that focuses on a psychiatrist played by Gabriel Byrne. What's very interesting about this show is that not only do each of his patients get their own episodes, but they each get their own season's worth of episodes. So each season is like 30 episodes, but it's very in-depth in the way that we explore these characters, in the way that Paul Weston, our main character, played by Byrne, how he interacts with them and brings out the information that he needs them to understand. It's so very good because then, by the time we get to the end of the week, he ends up going to see his own psychiatrist played by Diane Wiest. So then we see how he is affected by all of this. It's so very well done, even across multiple seasons. There are only 3 and there are a lot of episodes, but it's so well done. The writing and the acting in this show is so top-notch, you won't see anything like it anywhere else. Next up is Sex and the City, the half-hour comedy series focusing on single 30-something women living in New York City. You have to know about Sex and the City, come on. This show saved me earlier this year when I was cheap and Amazon Prime was my only streaming service because I had gotten the year subscription and I needed something to watch on my phone because I didn't have internet anywhere else, and I ended up binging all 7 seasons of Sex and the City for probably, I don't know, maybe the 3rd time in my life over the course of maybe a month. I just think this is an adorable show. It sure is dated and ridiculous. It's really just these 4 broads making dad jokes and sleeping with random guys, but it's fun! It's fun! Pour yourself a glass of wine, throw on Sex and the City, take a trip back in time. You can't go wrong. Hung is another half-hour comedy series from HBO that is totally an underrated gem. Like, no one talks about this at all. This is a silly little show where Thomas Jane plays a high school athletics coach who is very down on his luck and divorced, and his entire life is falling apart. So he ends up teaming up with Jane Addams, who acts as his pimp, and he becomes a male prostitute. The premise is ripe with plenty of material, and it's played well throughout its 3 seasons. But it's the acting and dynamic between Jane and Addams that really makes this a standout show that I highly recommend checking out. It's only 3 seasons. I wish we got more, but check it out. It's still worth a watch. Sticking with the half-hour comedy series, we also have Enlightened, a quirky comedy that, again, no one talks about this. And I have to admit, this might be for a niche audience, but if you think you are a part of that audience, I highly recommend checking out Enlightened. The show focuses on Laura Dern, who plays a corporate exec who loses her job and suffers a complete mental breakdown. Returning from a spiritual retreat, she is an entirely different, enlightened person who is starting over a new life, focusing on positivity and goodness. Yes. And of course, her entire life is all messed up. Again, for a particular audience, it's quirky and silly and really makes fun of the law of attraction, but I found it highly entertaining. There are only 2 seasons, so you can blow through it pretty quickly. Give Enlightened a watch, it needs some love! The last of the HBO shows I'm covering has a ton of love from me, and I am not calling it a guilty pleasure. This show, of course, is True Blood. Judge me all day, I unequivocally love True Blood. I know there are only 3 to 4 good seasons, depending on your taste for B-level horror comedy, but the episodes entailed in those seasons complete me on a level that just nothing else does. True Blood had me at hello! Now, if you don't know what True Blood is, let me have a great time explaining to you what True Blood is. This show is based on a series of books written by Charlene Harris that I also read, and I also recommend those as books. And it's set in a reality where vampires are real and they have come out of the coffin, as they say, meaning they are known to the general public. But the main focus is on Sookie Stackhouse, played by one of my faves, Anna Paquin. She kills it in this role. She's so good. She plays this telepathic waitress living in small town Louisiana, and she ends up forming a relationship with a local vampire. And she ends up expanding her world to include werewolves, witches, and so much more. True Blood is sexy southern fried pulp that you just don't get anywhere else. I know all the stuff I just said sounds so silly, and it is. However, this show harnesses that so well and makes it so authentic with its real grounded characters in this absolutely bonkers world. You might not want to finish the series, but definitely make it to season 4. You gotta make it to season 4. It has the most epic sex scene. It lasts 2 episodes. You only get that on True Blood, I'm sorry. Okay, we've made it this far, so now on to the best of the best. Amazon Prime also has the silly sitcom Sabrina the Teenage Witch. The 90s was seriously so nostalgic for the witches of the 60s, like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. We needed Hocus Pocus, Practical Magic, The Craft, and Sabrina the Teenage Witch just filled in this slot of just fun, witchy times that everyone just needed in the 90s. In case you don't already get it, we follow Melissa Joan Hart, who plays Sabrina, the titular teenage witch, who navigates teenage problems with her cool aunts and her talking cat Salem. You might be aware of the reboot by Netflix that has a more dark and Riverdale-y feel, but just because Sabrina the Teenage Witch is now an oldie doesn't mean it isn't a goodie. Sabrina is definitely a nostalgic hit that is well worth conjuring up. Doing another 180 back to super dark stuff, we have The Exorcist, the television show, which I cannot praise enough. I am always harping on network television just being not nearly as good anymore as what we see on streaming. However, The Exorcist television show goes places that you just wouldn't even see anywhere but an Exorcist the TV show. And it doesn't need to be in any platform except for where it was on TV in order to disturb audiences in the ways that it did. Now, I recognize the original film directed by William Friedkin as a quintessential horror film. Don't get me wrong, I get that. However, the film doesn't exactly strike me the way Rosemary's Baby and The Shining do. I just don't love The Exorcist the way that other people do. I respect it. However, this show really freaks you out. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. You've got to give it a shot. It is freaky. I don't want to spoil anything for fans of the original film. Let me just say there are surprises, and there's an exorcism, and with an exorcist, and batshit crazy. I've only seen the first season, but I've heard the second is very good. I can't wait to get around to it. But the first season was good enough for me to recommend. I would say get into it. It is one of the scariest television shows I believe I have ever seen in my entire life. Now let me hit you with a classic. The X-Files is streaming on Amazon Prime. I was a Buffy kid when I was growing up, so I really didn't get into the X-Files, but I'm really glad that I discovered this show in my adult years because it filled this 90s sci-fi void that I didn't even know existed. Now in this show, David Duchovny plays Special Agent Fox Mulder, the Believer, and Gillian Anderson plays Dana Scully, the Skeptic. Two partners who have to work on all kinds of out-of-this-world cases. I can't even get into how many different kinds of Monster of the Week episodes there are. There is so much wackiness going on all over the X-Files. However, it is all played straight and done so well that if it isn't scaring you, it's definitely entertaining you. I shouldn't have to tell you about the X-Files. You should just know. You should just want to watch it if you haven't already seen it. The original 9 seasons are streaming on Amazon Prime, so you've got about like 5 or 6 seasons to watch. Back to the funnies, I have another comedy show for you, and that's Garfunkel and Oates, a hilarious half-hour comedy show that follows two best friends, who are also a musical duo, trying to make it in LA. And, well, you know, They're living. We go through the ups and downs of the characters played by Ricky Lindholm and Kate McCucci, and they are just hilarious good times. It's definitely another quirky, niche show. However, I think a lot of people could get into it. All of the wacky musical numbers that play throughout the episodes are so original and ridiculous. The closest comparison I could find is Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. So if you're into that, definitely check out Garfunkel and Oates. Going dark again, we have Mr. Robot, a crazy show starring Rami Malek about a computer hacker who ends up becoming embroiled in a very large scheme that is much bigger than him. I don't even know what to say about Mr. Robot. I'm like, you just can't even talk about it. Until you get past season 1, it's like all the secrets are out of the box. There's so much going on. You just have to start watching Mr. Robot. Just know it's about computer hackers, and Rami Malek is maybe crazy, and there's just stuff happening, and you'll figure it out. Watch Mr. Robot. How about some more silly reality TV? Once again, me being a product of my time, this is a nostalgic hit because while I don't love reality TV, I can always go back to the first season of The Simple Life. And this might be an infuriating watch for a lot of people, just seeing Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie be absolute idiots in any setting they're dropped in. But I find it endlessly entertaining. I actually own all 5 seasons, but I'm happy to report that they're also on Amazon Prime. So if you're willing to dive into that pile of garbage, it's there for you. And there's some fun times to be had, guys, I'm telling you. This is another 90s classic that I can't recommend enough, Twin Peaks. Oh, Twin Peaks. You gotta know about Twin Peaks. Back with the quirky. Wow, I really like quirky, huh? I just realized. This show follows a small town in Washington in the late 80s, early 90s, where a young homecoming queen, Laura Palmer, is found murdered, wrapped in plastic on a beach. What happened to her? What's going on in the small town of Twin Peaks? What's up with the log lady? There's a whole lot to unpack, so definitely dig into Twin Peaks. I will warn you, it does end on one of the greatest cliffhangers of all time. I would say you don't even need to see the Twin Peaks The Return to get the full story. It's perfectly fine leaving it at season 2. But those 2 seasons tell such a wacky, interesting story about this investigation in a small town. While you have definitely seen shows that have tried to replicate the Twin Peaksiness of Twin Peaks, you just have to see Twin Peaks to see it all in its glory. Another Amazon original that you have to know about is The Boys. This wild superhero show that is based on a graphic novel series is about a reality where superheroes exist. There is a real-life Justice League set sort of group that is handling things. And there are also a group of vigilantes called The Boys who are out to take them down. It's a really raw look at what a world with superheroes would actually be like, and I can't say that I thought it was perfect, but I definitely say give it a watch, especially if you like comic book movies. But even if you don't, you will see enough of the show making fun of comic book movies that you'll enjoy it no matter what. Definitely give The Boys a watch. It is a wild ride. We are down to it! The last 2 best things that you can watch on Amazon Prime, and you should know what these are. Parks and Recreation, another quirky half-hour comedy series set in small-town Indiana, where the members of the Parks and Recreation Department go through life. They pretty much are failures at everything, and it's hilarious. Starring Amy Poehler, Nick Offerman, Chris Pratt, Aubrey Plaza, and many more. This is one of the funniest shows of all time. It's without a doubt my favorite comedy series. I love Parks and Recreation. It is so silly and fun, and it stays consistent throughout the course of the series. There's like a little bit of season 4 that I don't like, but overall, it's a really solid, well-told full series of amazing episodes that I could rewatch anytime. And lastly, the best show of all time. So glad we have it. The Twilight Zone. Do not be held up thinking, oh no, this old show is just not gonna have anything there for me. I also am someone that just doesn't really have any interest in diving back into television pre-1980, if not 1990. But The Twilight Zone truly is the best show of all time that explores all kinds of subject matter that is still relevant today. In fact, it's incredible how much of this show really holds up. I still really enjoy watching The Twilight Zone, and I still think it's the best show ever because it still is just as entertaining now as I feel like it was when it originally aired. It still feels as original and vibrant, even though you'll find so many things that you go, wow, that was totally stealing from The Twilight Zone now that I'm seeing this episode. Those episodes still are incredibly entertaining. I can't recommend The Twilight Zone enough. At least just pick out some of the best classics that you'll find on top 10 lists all over the internet. Check those out. You will not be disappointed. You will be sucked into The Twilight Zone. I guarantee it. And that is my list of the best shows to watch on Amazon Prime right now. Of course, I still have plenty to watch, and I'm sure you probably have your own suggestions, which you should leave in the comments below. I'm working my way through Carnival Row, so look for my review coming soon. Until then, subscribe to my channel, share this with your friends, let them know what they should be watching on Amazon Prime. People are clearly just missing out. There is a lot of good stuff to watch. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really truly appreciate it, honestly. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share this video with your friends, and now get to streaming those titles.